with the world around us filled with so much conflict and division, and as we currently at the time of this recording head into a holiday season in the next month or so, you might be wondering, where do I belong? How can I show up as non-duality, embodied love, multidimensional expression of awareness and peace? How do I do that? Today's guest, Helen Quail, offers beautiful guidance, transmissions of love, and even a very beautiful meditation at the end of today's episode that will put you back in your remembrance of who you are in truth and love. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show. That show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the fire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our lives. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations week after week and tuning into the energy that's in my life and in the space and the collective as I tune into that 12th house Scorpio moon. Hi, everyone. And I can feel all these things going on in my body and then just parsing that information and asking what's up, what needs to be shared. And of course, having the perfect guest, on the podcast to help us to have that conversation, to voice what needs to be said and to receive all the beauty that needs to be received. And I think at this time, as this interview is heading down the holiday funnel from October into November, and we're starting to think about, family gatherings and coming together and community and belonging, and where do I belong and how do I fit in? And if you're in any of those beautiful roles, as we all are, of daughter or son or cousin or brother or sister or mother or father, that you might particularly be feeling this at this time. And if you're living in the United States, you're really feeling it probably because of just how divisive it's become and how separated and how polarized. And how can we work with ourselves and our own hearts and our own identities and our own narrative, our own personal narrative to influence a change, not only for ourselves, but for our family systems and for our larger communities and for our nation and the world, really, because we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So everything that's happening in our individual lives is happening somehow at the collective as well. It's part of some movement of energy, some conversation and consciousness that's taking place, some exploration. And each of us has like a front row seat to that exploration through our own lived experience. And we're going to have a really awesome conversation and also transmission and beautiful experience with our guest today, Helen Quail, who is here. She is a global level heart-centered consciousness shifter. Her life transforming approach is embodied awakening, how to live a life of embodied love as an awakened human with full spectrum authenticity. And she's served over 25 years internationally as a wisdom teacher, as an embodied awakening and meditation guide, a group facilitator, a soul mentor, a master energy healer, and author. And she's helped thousands of people. And I found Helen online, caught my eye. I let spirit help me through synchronicity to find the people that would have amazing conversations with me on this podcast. And there on my Instagram feed was Helen sharing a beautiful video transmission, and also seeing her just look right into her soul through her eyes. It's just these pictures that are just so beautiful, Helen. Thank you for being with us today.
Bless you, Carrie. Thank you for all that you're holding and bringing and the opportunity to be here and to connect with your community as well. I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to be here. And I know that just because I know my own journey and I've had so many of these conversations, I know that you didn't just land on the planet awake and went, this is what I'm meant to be.
No.
I know that your first book is called Coming Home. And I know you speak a lot about belonging and also about coming out of polarity and duality into an embodied awareness of ourselves in non-duality. And so all of this has got to be from your own lived experience. Is there anything you feel on your heart to share with the audience about your journey?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, what I want to do right now is just take a couple of breaths with anybody that's watching or listening right now and just directly come to the contact with our breath and with our heart space and shift our center of awareness down and in. And as we shift down and in, there's an opening that we can allow here in this holy space, this blessed space, and just this micro movement is in many ways everything. So I endeavor to explore with everyone that I come into connection with what I call embodied awakening, the awakening to our true nature as undying infinite consciousness. For those of us that touch this in a moment or in dramatic, spectacular ways in a meditation or a ceremony or a journey or just in life, then what? Then there's the integration, then there's the transformation. And this is a process that happens infinitely. It has no end, it has no beginning. And it's one of these cosmic jokes that everything is already here. We are already home. And we forget, and we get lost, and we get confused. And this homecoming, like awakening, is endless. What I come from is a stance where spirituality is not in any way divorced from the messy ground of living as a human being. And it's this dance. I often talk about dances and exploring because it's a stance that I find most relevant and supportive. None of it's linear, as we know. We remember and we forget and we realize to whatever degree we're available in a moment. And then there's a consolidation, there might be resistance, and then we're in a changed place. And as energy, as spirit, our nature is both eternal stillness and change. So I'm someone who always had an awareness of unbelonging. And there's many levels of this, right? There's the psychological to do with attachment. There's emotional, there's cultural, there's ancestral. When I speak to these themes around homecoming and belonging, I'm speaking to all the levels, all the way to the prime, what I call the primal, and I'll come back to that. But as a young child in Scotland, which is where I lived most of my life, I literally was like, what? And on the outer, my childhood was relatively quiet. And it's only much, much later in life, I realized there was an awful lot going on. As I went into adulthood, I had some massive, massive challenges and events in my life that thrust me in a different direction. My soul was always in charge, but it became more apparent. And we're talking years and years before I came to some peace with that through chronic illness, through becoming a mother at a very young age to a daughter with disabilities, and other elements that I'm writing about in my second book. It was many years later before I got the first taste of belonging. And it was much less about any external circumstance or place and about an internal shifting. Belonging can be activated or triggered by all kinds of things, by a deep communion with another being, by finding ourselves on land that all of a sudden there's tears coming. I'm in Mount Shasta right now, and this is a place where many people who come here, I'm getting chills. I call it's a frequency recognition. People come here and like, oh my God, I'm home, or this is home. And there might be a confusion for a time of, I have to be here because this is what brings this. The mountain too, Mount Shasta, is bringing a remembrance, a direct recognition and remembrance of homecoming. So I feel these themes are more urgent than ever, or more pressing than ever, with what's happening in collective humanity. Where we all get into a mess is where we forget who we are before everything. And we get confused that difference means other. Difference means separate. We're always holding the apparent paradox of oneness and differentiation. That's really where I come from, the fundamental awakening to oneness. And in that, we can also know that first differentiation of everything and nothing, all that is, into form. And that, I believe and experience, is in every one of us. The fundamental, the original truth, and the experience of differentiation. And we can track that all the way through cosmic levels, galactic levels, planetary levels, ancestral levels, and personal levels. And coming home is in many ways coming to peace with this, coming to peace with what it is to have said yes to coming into a body. And in my own journey with its different cycles, it's only been in the last maybe 15 years or so where this balancing of awakening and embodiment has become more the core. And when we look at where we are, we're in perhaps what appears to be more polarity than ever as a species. How do we hold this without going into narratives and stories that just create more division? And of course, that's being cultivated not by anybody out there. This is our own, this is us. It's all us. It's the good news and the bad news. It's all us, right? It's our beauty and our power and our shadow, our unintegrated shadow. The exploration of truth, it gets really simple because it does come back to here, to ending the war. My teacher used to talk about ending the war, and the war is in here with our own body, particularly when we have a female body, but men are suffering more and more with this, with our own body, with our thoughts, with our patterning, with our habits, with what we carry in our DNA, our biological DNA and our spiritual DNA. Ending the war and coming to peace with what it is to be an awakening human on this particular planet, at this particular moment in the expression of the cosmos. So it's big, big times. And I'm an advocate for this, well, in many ways, the subtlety of holding paradox, not falling into another spiritual story of everything's glorious and wonderful and this is new earth. Yes, it's here. And there's incredible suffering and confusion and events and movements happening that are really not okay at so many levels. And holding all of this and still being able to contact the original okayness, the perfection, but not leaving any part in what's happening all around us and what's happening in our own self, in our own confusion, our own disconnect, our own suffering.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. It is the paradox of both and, it's holding both at the same time, because we have a world that we've fairly fully explored, that we are releasing the paradigms of, and then we're opening up to new inquiry. What more is possible? And we might not have that answer yet. So for a lot of people, it's felt a little bit like a cocoon, like this, the chalkboard is being erased, but there's nothing really clear, very few clear things coming forward through that chalkboard. It's just kind of like hold steady while we create some space to breathe as we release this old. It's kind of like probably how the caterpillar feels inside the butterfly, inside the cocoon. It's like it's got to be reduced all the way down to goo and muck and mush before it's formed into a butterfly. And how does that happen? That's spirit that comes in and does that. Spirit gives it its new instruction. Spirit comes in and inserts that higher intelligence in a divine design and reorganizes all of this molecules and everything into this complete other being. Like spirit does that. And this is the part where we humans get uncomfortable, because spirit is doing the work of creating the butterfly in each of us. It's bringing a divine design in, and we're not in charge of that.
Yeah. So as someone in a human body, we need to release our addiction to many things, actually, a lot of addiction to making wrong, to making ourselves wrong, to making others wrong, to judgment. These are tools of separation, and to becoming maybe not comfortable, but okay with discomfort. I've talked about this for many years it's really the path of the mystic, is the path of not knowing. And what is the ego like? The ego is all about certainty. It's all about, and bless it, it's trying to keep us safe. Like, the ego gets demonized. There's lots of different aspects to ego, obviously. But these are the structures that let us do this, that like there's a Carrie and there's a Helen, and to navigate these realms. So our egos are in service to our eternal nature. We are spirit. We're not separate from spirit. We continually are deconstructing and having to release the habits, the patterns, and the addictions that are not healthy and are not serving. And the path of the heart in particular, or a more unified path. My work is about union, the union of form and formless, of mind and heart, masculine and feminine. True union honors both, right? And the clarifying of mind and the awakening of heart. The path of the heart, when I say heart, heart and soul can in many ways be interchangeable. We could go on a whole conversation about language, but let's not. It has always showed me that it will only give one truthful next step. Mm-hmm. And that can be micro or macro. It can be the tiniest thing, like make a phone call, or it can be huge, like leave a relationship or move country. And most of us, the vast majority of us, are so unaccustomed to this. We have created these programs through patriarchy, through the celebration of the disembodied mind and the intellect, that have got us so out of balance. We are having to remember, what is this body? What is this animal body? What is this heart? What is the unseen, right? The darkness, the feminine, the worlds of intuition, of sensing, and awaken these again and come into right relationship so that we can harness the tools, the incredible tools that we have, which include the mind, this incredible heart and this belly, this deep, intuitive, earth-based wisdom that grounds the eternal. And I'm somebody who's super galactic by nature, super cosmic. Like my wiring, the way that I look at it now is like, it's just the wiring that I have is very cosmic, and it's very much tuned into like the largest perspectives. And because of this, my soul chose to explore this path of embodiment, of how we can embody the vastness of what is, all the way through the minutiae of life, and particularly the healing and the balancing of the masculine and feminine, and the shifting around what it is to be embodied in a female body. And I'll talk about this more because this is my experience. my work has always been about direct experience. My academic work was about experiential learning before I was on an awakening path. So I can speak to my experience of what it is as a white woman living in Western society to be in a female body, and as a mother, specifically as someone who has taken the role of mother 5 times in very, very different ways and is still very much in those roles, as a deconstructor and as a transformer and as a paradigm shifter. And this is like where the rubber meets the road. You know, we can talk in spiritual language about the rise of the divine feminine and so on. What does that actually mean when you have a child who is deeply struggling, or you're deeply struggling, or your community disowns you? And many other examples I could give. It's deeply personal, Kerry, and it's universal. This is the radicalization of awakening. It is political as well, right? It's not separate. And it's related to how we have created economics, how we've created political structures, physical structures, sociological structures, like how we live, how we function. And I'm right on the ground of these inquiries, along with so many others, of what are we doing? How are we living? And how can we do this differently? And continuing to bring it to the deepest place. Because we see evidence again and again of not only how we're messing it up pretty well on the wider stage, but also in our spiritual communities. There's very few models of success. There are some, for sure, but like how we can learn the skills to navigate the inevitable arising of our own wounding and shadow as we live closely with anyone, whether it's in a nuclear family situation or in a community situation. And I'm hearing more and more of us asking those questions, because it's becoming more and more unavoidable that how we're doing it, and it needs to go perhaps all the way to the ground. We can't just tweak what is fundamentally distorted. That's becoming clear again. We can't just replace one figurehead with another. Or like, for those of us that have been on a journey of healing or awakening, we can relate this to our own experience. I can relate it to my own experience. When I look at the collective and sometimes wonder, like, ask for grace and ease. Does it really need to be this hard? And then I look at my own journey and like, I needed to be physically on the floor, unable to walk, unable to work, unable to do pretty much anything after a long period before I was really, like, a deeper part of my wiring and psyche said, maybe there's another way.
Yeah. Maybe I can collaborate.
Yeah. Like the addiction to striving, I mean, particularly in America is the epitome. You know, I came here full time.
Yeah, because you have a really different perspective coming from.
And so I came here 7 years ago with 4 of my children, and I'd been to America and you know, had some experience. It still was shocking to all of us. A great teaching, especially for my kids, of like all the things that we took to be normal or just, you know, the programming. Wait, it's really different here. So it's an opportunity to really wake up, and being really shocked at many things, but particularly like this extreme, the distortion of masculinity or patriarchy in many ways, but particularly in the structures of work and the economy. And these are unsustainable at every level, at the planetary level, the emotional level, the physical level. And we're kind of having to learn that the hard way, but it's happening. You know, some of the mass awakenings that started 5 years ago have gone to a whole other level. And my higher wisdom showed me last year that this year was going to be like, that was just the warm up. Like,
it's
like,
just
forget about
year
it
too.
you know?
So like,
strap
in, everybody.
But not having any idea of what it was going to look like. Just like in 2020, when it's all started, there was a part of me that was in such excitement and joy without, like, it was irrational. And yet there was a deeper knowing.
Oh yeah.
Right, of this is what it needs. This is what it looks like.
I was asked to lead a conversation at a conference, January 2020. And I channeled the guidance from White Eagle. And literally I had written a whole speech, and 10 minutes before I got out of bed to go deliver it, White Eagle's like, throw it out because we're not doing that. I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So I'm going to go in blind to these people I really want to impress. Right.
Yeah.
And he had me walking around the room so fast, like my oversoul. I'm walking around the room so fast. I can't even all I can do is focus on where my next step is going to be.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, what's coming out of my mouth is this thing's going to go so fast, you won't be able to keep up and you will have to surrender to your soul. That was basically what he was saying.
Yeah.
And he was doing it through my body, right? Through the example of my body. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to surrender to White Eagle now. And it was like, wow. But there's that, it's a partnership. So I love that you brought in how all pieces, because a lot of people do victim or ego shaming. But the medicine wheel teaches us that all parts of yourself are equal.
Yeah.
There's 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
Right? There's body, there's emotional body, there's mental body, there's soul. So it's all equal. They're not like one quadrant is really, really teeny tiny and the other ones are bigger. So we are shifting into a very different, almost a whole new octave of expression of how to live on the planet as human, which is not known up until now from a human body.
Yeah.
Except by a few sages that throughout time, a few people.
That's the potential. That's the invitation. And the groundedness of it is really important. It's a lived inquiry, right? Life is the meditation. So some can touch this, some can embody it, some really struggle, some may never. And that's one of the realities that I've been brought to, is that though the same seed and spark is in every being, the likelihood that all beings will come to know this in this lifetime, for example, who can say? It may be very small. Who knows? Nobody can say. So again, we have to stay in the unknowing and
anything is possible too.
Anything is possible. Absolutely.
And the dragonfly medicine, for example, of the gene keys and all the quickening that's happening at the quantum level that many of us are playing with, these quantum energies. And every single time we get a breakthrough, it is circling the planet so many times per second. Yeah. So we're entering the realm of the miracle. We don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So I've experienced many miracles in my life. And this is part of the unfamiliarity of sitting in the not known, is holding the reality of miracle and massive transformation, and holding a whole spectrum. And of course, the spectrum that we can even contact consciously changes as our awareness changes. And the mind wants certainty, and it wants this or this or this or this. And how do we hold the true nature of being, which is both already perfect and a mystery, with living our life effectively? So it's the surrender and the opening, and letting this be in the driving seat, letting this speak through us. In all my work with groups for more than 10 years, my role has been to hold a space of inquiry, of White Eagle brought you to, in this moment, what is here? And particularly when we come together collectively, even if it's just a handful of people, what is possible, like this butterfly effect or the dragonfly effect, increases exponentially as we each and all surrender to the mystery. And it's a surrender that is available for life, it's not in any way disconnected from how we then go about our job or dealing with our families or our relationships or any of that stuff. It's what actually informs and changes us together. And I often speak to awakening being both deeply personal and unique, as a unique pace and flavor for every one of us. Of course, there's common themes, but it is a unique lived experience, and it's relational. We can only go so far in the embodiment of non-consciousness without engaging with another being. We can sit in our cave and go, oh yeah, got it, yeah. Right?
Yeah, and they go home and visit your family.
And then, exactly, I was going to say, let me meet somebody that triggers us and pisses us off. And it's like, oh, okay, hello, judgment. Hello. contempt, I love all the things, right? So it's relational, and then it's interrelational on a large scale, because maybe the piece that we have forgotten most in the West in particular, is the direct knowing of our interconnectedness. We can talk about it. That's just up here somewhere, is the felt, visceral remembrance and knowing that we are all the same stuff. We are all the same stuff from the same source. And that's the foundation of what we're being called to awaken into.
Yeah. And all of the empath people listening, it's like when you wake up in the morning and you feel the collective through your very body. And you think,
Yeah,
I'm not depressed. My life is great, but I'm feeling the collective today, and something happened. And then you look to see what it was. And there it is. Something terrible happened to a group of people in your basic area. And you can feel it. And the more embodied we are, the more transparent, the more vulnerable, the more we feel the things that are happening on the planet as not somehow separate from us, but as intrinsically connected to us.
Yeah. And then how do we tend to this, Kerry? You know, like this again is at the heart of how I look at things. As we open consciousness and expand consciousness, what's happening in the nervous system right now? Because it's constantly, right, changing. What's happening in the body? What's happening in the mind? What's happening to some young parts? And I trust the pace of this unfoldment in each of us more than ever, because of my own experience, not only my own life, but working with people at all different stages of life and being able to witness the perfection of their journey, like truly, not just as a theory, but to know it in my gut. And that, of course, reflects back to a deeper knowing in my own self when judgment comes up about whatever, of trusting the pace. It's like you said earlier about it's the fertilizing, like the seed that we all have, and it will sprout and grow in different ways in each of us. And there is a perfection in the timing. So tending to our ground, to our soil, and what nourishes us is so important. And I've been writing recently about our compass and our map, tending to our core. What is our core? It's not what's scrolling online or all the things, right? We have to get quiet. We have to remember how to listen. And when we go and sit under a tree or whatever it might be, we're in contact with a reality that is in our bones. It's in every one of us. And without that compass, something else is driving us, right? Our own forgetting is driving us. Our own wounding can be driving us. And the agendas of the collective movements playing out. So more than ever, having a practice of some kind is so important. And I'm someone that's come through a whole lot of different pathways and at different times, and always integrated them and stepped on. And it wasn't my path in this lifetime to rigidly follow prescriptive teachings, to take them in and remember them and have the exchange. So I very much support our sovereignty in listening and choosing as we change, and our practice being alive and responsive, not like, well, I'll sit for 50 minutes, I'll do X, Y, and Z, and that's it. Then it just becomes unconscious, like other things, right? So it has to be alive, which means being willing to listen, again, being willing to not know, being willing to be uncomfortable, but being willing to show up in devotion for being at the center of our own life. Like, who is living this life? Doesn't belong to anybody else. Doesn't belong to our parents or our kids or our neighbors or our government or our community. Doesn't belong to the ego either, right? Doesn't belong to the professional somebody. Okay, like, what is this life that is moving through us? And these are the questions that we can just get so curious about. And even just sitting with this every day is something that will open and challenge and support. It will bring nourishment.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was seeing myself opening sacred space every day at the altar. And I got to say, like this whole year, it's taken another whole level. Like I open the 4 directions, over my community altar, I open the directions, I open space, I call in certain things. And this year it started getting like, I'm on a medicine journey the moment I start opening the South. And then like, I'm starting to notice my mind and what thoughts are in it. And then I'm like, whoa. And then I'm trying to stay on target to open the West, but there's all this coming through. And it's like, oh no, I have to sit and contemplate this now. I can't go on to the North yet. I've got to sit with this. And I'm like, they're like 2 hours, some days, like what could take 15 minutes before is like, oh no, I have to sit and be with this now. I can't just move on. I feel my ancestors through me. And it's just like this whole thing so I've had to block off like the first part of my day every day now.
Beautiful.
Because it requires my presence.
I would say there's nothing more important, Carrie. And that's not about being spiritual or I meditate for all these hours every day. It's about where you're meeting the reality of your life. And again, this is a paradigm shift for so many of us about the integration of like, what really matters? What am I here for? And if our practices are bringing this depth, hallelujah, even with the discomfort, right?
No plants ingested, just all medicine drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's
so available.
Like
I'm at a ceremony right now, it opens up. And I mean, I think that's the 1,000 hours, right? That they say if you practice any kind of, you could change the practice, but if you just have that intention and you do your meditation or your contemplation or you be with that, it's going to start like blossoming, and when it starts to blossom, it is going to kind of take over because that's the thing that matters the most. And if we reprioritize our day to that changes everything for the better. And then all of a sudden you're not slaving away in front of the computer for 10 hours a day. You're involved in this beautiful dance with your soul, however, whatever form it takes, as you have your methods, I have mine, everyone's listening has yours. And then that is synchronistically connecting you to like you said, the next right step. And then you take that step and everything just goes for the day. But it's not that there isn't a tussle, because for me, I'm tussling during that too. If it's like I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh, okay, I've noticed my impatient with this. Okay. And I know I'm in class. Okay. I'm very clear. I'm in class with Mother Earth and I'm like learning during that process.
Yeah.
Noticing the impatience, noticing the frustration.
Beautiful.
Things didn't go the way I want this to be over. I'm hungry. All those things, right?
It's all the meditation. It's all life, right? It's wholeness is the word I use a lot and applies everywhere in our practice to when we meet our preferences, we meet our discomfort, we meet our boredom, we meet, that we've just spent the last 10 minutes thinking about whatever or dinner, and intentionality is, I want to say it's a superpower. True intentionality that arises from the deep, from our heart and soul, right? Because that's what that shapes where energy flows, literally where we put our energy. So if our intention is just to like develop something like their business and create X amount of money and we put all our energy to it, fine, great, wonderful. If our intentionality is to know ourselves, to explore this life, to ask deeper questions, who am I and why am I here? And to keep asking them. We can then translate that. It doesn't translate automatically. We have to be specific and focused and intentional in how we then use the gift of this life, how we are used, what we put our energy into every single day. And there's a huge teaching here about death as well, because it's the same, life and death. And we think we have this illusion that even though the intellect or the mind knows I'll have whatever period of years, we don't face the reality that death is here at every moment. And therefore we're not fully living. And we give away our power and our energy to all kinds of things for an illusion of comfort and safety. And one of the great gifts of what's happening just now, which in no way diminishes the suffering and the hardships, is the deconstruction of those illusions So where is safety? Where is comfort? Where is home? And many of us on a path of healing and awakening go through these intense initiations of being stripped away. I'm sure we both could share multiple stories.
My journey as a mother, let's just say that.
Likewise, yeah, and a very severe health condition, and again and again and again. Why? Life is benevolent. Love is benevolent. And love is as fierce as it is tender. And when we bring this to the topic of mothering, a radicalization and a reclaiming of truth around mothering is also a reinstituting, a re-knowing of not only the tenderness, but the fierceness. And the fierceness of the sword, the fierceness of truth, has got nothing to do with programming. So much of the programming is about the economy, and is about the institutions, and is about conformity, and is about fear. And so much of it is what we've inherited, not only through contemporary models, but ancient. And as I'm speaking to this, I can literally see like the tectonic plates shifting in the earth. It's like, this is what's available. And how do we respond? You know, like we're not just passengers, but this isn't happening to us. So again, what are we choosing? And make no mistake, everything that we think to be true will be challenged.
I gotta say, like, if I'd have known when I was 30, having my first child, if I'd have known what I know now, that actually motherhood and raising a child is like being the best medicine facilitator you could possibly be. When you facilitate ceremony for people, or you facilitate a medicine journey, it's not about colluding with them in their ideas. It's also not about controlling them. And it's also not about putting your ideas on them. It's about really being able to see as a clear witness who their soul is, what they're here for, what their lesson is they're moving through, where your entanglements are with it, what's your work in it, but also holding steady, that fierce love you were talking about, like really holding steady on that, not letting the dragons get them by the tail, you know, like pointing it out to them. Like, here's this dragon. It's trying to get your attention right now. You know, it's trying to pull you out of yourself. And gosh, I would have done things so differently if I'd have known all that. And I think about all these young women now and young men that are steeped in medicine work, that are now with that knowledge, having children. It's going to be a whole different planet, you know, and I just go, wow, look at that. I mean, that's an incredible perspective to have when you're raising children.
Yeah. And as you know, so many of the indigo children, crystal children, and so on, like the younger children and a couple of generations that are coming in awake and staying awake. And then the alchemy that happens.
They can tell when your ego's up because they just, if you've ever been around a child that's awake,
yes,
they just look at you like,
yeah.
And as a matter of fact, sometimes they won't even, if they know that you're sleepy, they just won't even give you any attention at all. You know, just walk on by, you know.
Yeah. Several of my children have different kinds of special needs, and, you know, one is on the spectrum, and it's such a gift, like, because there's just no indulgence of the ego whatsoever. And again, it's like reminding myself of what I'm here for, even when it gets really uncomfortable. This is what I'm here for the transformation. And this is big, big work. You know, we're working from the inside out in one of the most intimate arenas as the parent-child dynamic to rewrite the foundations of how we're doing this. We've been in a patriarchal era for a long time, and as I'm sure everybody well knows, it isn't replacing one distortion with another. It's like, can we really be willing to get to know all that we have and are, and meet in this dance, in this lovemaking of the infinite and form, and of all of the qualities of the cosmos? Is that vast? And it comes down to how we deal with the details of our lives. So it's, you know, incredibly exciting, accelerated times, and incredibly challenging times. And I have so much empathy for all of us, wherever we're at. And in some ways, especially for those who are still mostly asleep, still in resistance, because there's even more confusion in the system. The resistance goes even deeper. And again, trusting we all have our pace and our unfoldment. If it feels resonant, I would love to switch gears and take everybody into a resting place, into a meditation, into a transmission that is nourishing. It's also deeply transformative. And there's no script. This is just what wants to come through, to speak to our belonging and our unbelonging both, to touch our hearts and to feed us and support us right in this moment, in these times. Would that be okay?
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. Right. Everyone, close your eyes and receive.
Thank you. And I will go into light language as well. It's just how the frequencies want to come through. So mia tiana makuye natai miki ne mahai makurama ianata. So let's continue to drop down, my loves. Bringing attention into the happening of the breath that is already here. The happening of the breath that is always here for as long as we stay in this body. So just allowing the breath to happen, but tending to it, noticing it with gratitude, with quietness. This can be a point to return to if you notice that attention has distracted or diverted with a chain of thought. Notice the movement of your belly with the breath. And I'm going to continue to open up the field and to gather all of us into a connected and coherent field. Whenever you're listening or watching, we are meeting beyond time and space. We're meeting in frequency and intention. Let your muscles soften some more from shielding, striving, protecting. Feel the length of your spine, how it's always supporting you in both strength and flexibility. Feel the pelvis. Feel the ground of your body. And bring attention to awareness itself. Let's go to the space around the body. And let go, unhook of attending to detail or label or narrative. Be in that which is empty and full, that which is in which body appears and is known. And we are a unified field of beings, expressions of consciousness, of eternal love. Recognize this and come to the isness, space, the no thing. Consciousness is simply knowing itself infinitely, right here, right here. Mishayamai na turamae aki ui na tai, ne mahaya shui na tai makura naya, namaya na tiane kianamada. With the same expansion, this field is known in relation to the whole of human consciousness. Soften the gaze so that we are dissolving attention to stories, so many stories, and just opening to include the whole of human consciousness. Taking life and form on this particular blue planet. And again, soften into emptiness, the isness, in and through and around and before. All happening just is. Tai mai shui mai na te magia, ye mahai na ta. Let go. Love is a profound letting go. It's a falling and flying, an opening that has no end. And yet, we are not leaving this body. We're not leaving our feet, our heart. In the opening and letting go, there is the knowing that home is always here. All galaxies, all universes, the entire cosmos comes to be in the same thisness, that which we are. Just allow some softening to come right in across the abdomen, the belly. Allow the portal of the eternal heart space to be the gateway. Soften the muscles of the abdomen. Come into the pelvis, the legs and the feet. Know the whole body being known. This heart, this eternal heart, is your home. Let's take some deliberate, deeper breaths now, simply intending to receive all levels of the blessings, the transmission, the wholeness, the remembrance. May it be received with gentleness, power, and clarity. May we walk forward from this moment with more truth, more love, more courage. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. And then just continue to take a few moments to maybe even come into some very small movements, adjustments. Let the body just flow. It knows, it has such wisdom. It knows what it needs. to integrate and receive the light, healing, and the remembrance. Thank you for your presence and your openness.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your gift.
Joy, thank you.
So expansive and beautiful and sparkly and reassuring.
Yeah, we all benefit from this kind of nourishment, this deep nourishment. Life will take care of, I say life, the capital L, will take care of the growth, the catalysts. We don't need to worry about that. We're the ground crew. I often say this. We are the experiment. So we are the ones living in the body. We get to be love in action. So listening and moving from this listening.
So beautiful. So if you all enjoyed that experience as I did, then reach out to Helen. I wanted to be sure that they know that that y'all know you can get her book Coming Home. Is it on Amazon?
It is, yeah.
Okay. On Amazon. And also you can go to her website, helenquail.com. All of this will be in the show notes down below. So connect with her on Facebook, YouTube, Substack, Inside Timer. Yay.
Yeah.
Instagram, all the places. And if you want a private session, you guys, you get $50 off because you're a Soul Nectar listener. There's a link in the show notes down below. That is so beautiful. What a gift. Plus, there's a free 10-minute meditation, Being Born, which the link is down below as well. So go claim that. Beautiful. Helen, you are such a gem.
Likewise, right back at you. And it's just a joy to be here and to connect with your community. Like, we got to come together. As I said earlier, we're awakening and then we're exploring together and we're building new ways. And thank you for what you're building here. It's a joy to be here and to share and to connect with everyone.
Thank you for placing your medicine in Soul Nectar Show for everyone to receive throughout all time, space, and dimension as it broadcasts on the airwaves on all platforms around the planet. Just sending that juicy, yummy gift that you are everywhere for all of us to enjoy. It's beautiful. That's how we change reality, you guys. We're changing it right now. This is it right here. This is how we do it. Awesome. Well, I'm going to give kisses. Would you like to join me? I mean, you showered us with blessings, but if you'd like to join me for kisses, I always give kisses. Before I give them, you guys, remember, please like, share, subscribe, share this out to anyone that needs a little joy today, a little comfort in the storm. You know somebody. You know who that person is. Share it. Let them know how it touched you, and that way they can get access to all the gifts too. So, okay, here we go. Kisses to everybody. We love you. Thank you for staying on to the very, very end, as I know you all do. So appreciate you. Every time I look and I say, oh, they all stayed to the end. So great. Here they go. Here's your kisses. Love you guys so much. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken on the Soul Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar from the source of who you are.